長期低迷が続くエンゼルスを率いるミナシアン GM は、これまでもその発言や判断をめぐってたびたび物議を醸してきました。中でも菊池雄星投手のエアコン問題について、ミナシアン GM が虚言だと切り捨てた一件は、成績不振への不満と相まって、多くのエンゼルスファンの不信感と怒りを一気に噴出させる結果となりました。さらに今オフの補強でも、チームの得点力アップを期待されていた岡本和真選手の獲得に失敗するなど、ファンが望むような明確な強化策を打ち出せていません。そうした中で新たな火種となっているのが、サム・ブラム記者が公開した最新インタビューです。ブラム記者は、このインタビューでのミナシアン GM の発言内容について、ガスライティング、意図的な誤情報拡散を行っている可能性がある、と報じ、またもや大きな波紋を広げています。その内容を日本語字幕付きでご紹介しますので、ぜひ最後までご覧ください。
Well, hey, Angel fans, and welcome back to Halo Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network. I'm Mike DiGiovanna, former LA Times baseball writer, and I'm joined by former Angel slugger Mark Trumbo and Sam Blum, a baseball writer for The Athletic. Today, we're going to examine the performance of Angels general manager Perry Minasian, and we're going to start with some clips from his press availability last week.
We made a jump last year. I think we were in top 4, top 5 and wins from the previous season. We expect to make another jump this year. I'm not going to get into, it doesn't do me any good from a payroll standpoint or, doesn't give me an advantage on anybody else to give information. I'm not going to make any statements. Again, that's for, I'm not going to get into detail. Basically real value time, money-wise, I think anybody would look at that and believe it makes sense. Who wouldn't do that? Did you not do that?
Now, I don't know if we'll have much time to get into the meaning of value, time, money, but what I want to focus on is Perry saying that we were in the top 4 or 5 in wins from the previous season. The Angels went 63-99 in 2024 and 72-90 in 2025. They basically went from an abysmal franchise worst record to merely awful. That's like me, a 63-year-old man, bragging that I increased my vertical leap from 2 inches to 3 inches. Yeah, it's an improvement, but I ain't about to enter any slam dunk contests. So while Perry is technically correct, this does seem like a form of gaslighting. What do you guys think?
I mean, that's 100% what it is. It's that's kind of really all they have to work with at this point is just, I don't know if it's only gaslighting, but I mean, it's just, and it's not just that, it's the indignation with which it comes, right? Like you saw it in that clip, like, would you not do that? It's we're just trying to get answers for the fan base on kind of what direction they're headed in. And every single time, and it's not just that one press availability, it's nearly every single time, that's the way he operates. And so he will respond to questions with indignation, with what I would say is, times feels rude. He'll always say things like, well, that question's not for me, which to me is, as the person asking it, it's almost insulting because I know who I'm asking the question to, right? I know who I want to have answer that. And also, it's not like this organization is making people above Perry available at any sort of regular clip. So he's the one who's speaking for them. And just the lack of transparency, instead of just saying I can't answer it, he has to, make people feel like they're dumb for even wanting to know it. And that's where I think he loses the fan base in a lot of ways. Perry has a tough job. Everybody acknowledges that, who he works for, but he makes it a lot tougher on himself. And I don't think he's done himself any favors. It's kind of similar to the Rendon situation in some ways, where it's like, yeah, I mean, he's hurt. I don't think anyone blames somebody for getting hurt. But when you don't handle the extra layers of that well, you end up in a situation where, people are just upset at you for the way you're handling the situation.
Mark, I know you had a bit of a reaction to that quote as well.
I think I was probably, I know I was. As far as Anthony, I said he fell short in regards to handling his media duties. I stand by it. I think that it was obvious and it was frustrating. And it's frustrating for the fan base who, the more we go on and we do the show, I'm getting feedback and we have a number of very in tune, interested fans in what's going on with this organization that are not casual observers. They want to know the ins and outs. They want to know why the restructuring of the contract with Anthony happened. We could speculate, which is what we've alluded to, is all we're left with. But I think that question could have been answered a myriad of ways. Ultimately, what came out was, it had a condescending tone to it. I don't know if it was more towards you guys as the writers, maybe one in particular, or
Fletcher
the fans.
It wasn't even me who asked it. Like, it was, it's just
it sounded like it was either a topic, and I think this is kind of my whole thing. Every interview I've seen, there's some level of evasiveness. It doesn't seem like, and I want to paint a fair picture. I think that's what we are trying to do. Right now it's obvious Perry is under fire. Many media outlets are covering it. I think that press conference was a disaster. It didn't have to be one, but it ended up one. And I think ultimately, when I think about Perry, he may be under very strict orders from ownership. He may essentially have to go out there and walk the plank at times and take one for the team, and that's unfortunate. But when I think about what is under his control, it's his ability to speak, a little more candidly. I think it would go a long way. I tried to get into, I asked around, I tried to do my due diligence to figure out if there's something I'm missing or the fans are missing or literally everyone's missing as to why he operates the way he does. Maybe he was mentored by his, Alex Anthopoulos, for example. I went and watched a myriad of interviews with him. He is guarded at times with the information, but he's far more engaging. He's some personality shines. He's able to joke. He commented on some topics that I thought he might shy away from, as far as jumping salary and other, things that were kind of, giving a look behind the curtain. And, everyone's different. So Perry's not going to be Alex or anybody else, but I think he probably is, as far as around the game, he provides the least. I can't remember a GM that was as guarded as Perry is. He doesn't comment on contract negotiations, which is fine. Some of that stuff shouldn't be discussed, but I think at times it's this adversarial tone, and it doesn't need to be. He needs to let some of his personality shine, because at some point he might be looking for work elsewhere. And when you're looking at his body of work, you know what, maybe he had a tough time, inherited a club that wasn't as good here. Hopefully some of the things he's done are going to pay off. But in terms of his interaction with the media, I'd rate it as poor right now.
The other thing, just going on. Oh, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, to me, that quote fits a pattern that points to a general lack of accountability with this franchise. And that's something, Sam, you explored at the end of last season, when Perry, when asked several times, just refused to assess his performance after another losing season. And the Angels, Sam wrote, are an organization that refuses to look inward at their own mistakes and failures. They've had 10 straight losing seasons and gone 16 years without a playoff win, yet they operate with the confidence and indignation of a franchise that has earned the benefit of the doubt. First off, I have to say, if Baseball Savant tracked barrel rates for ball riders, Sam would be among the league leaders in hard hit rates. So kudos to you, Sam. What led you to write that at that time?
Well, so that was actually what I was about to say, which is, looking back at that press, that was an press availability that happened at the very end of the season. Or I didn't say the very end of the season. They delayed it for a week for no reason. But when the first question I asked Perry was, you let go of Wash, and the reason wasn't because of his health. It was because of performance. I mean, they wanted to make that really clear. I'm not sure exactly why, but they wanted to make that clear. And I'm like, if you can make that decision on behalf of your manager, how do you evaluate your own performance? Because Wash has been there for 2 years. Wash had health issues that, sidelined him for the majority of his second season. And, when he did manage, I mean, I'm not saying he was great or fantastic or, super successful, but, they were probably a little bit better. I mean, they showed some signs early in the season of an organization kind of willing to fight, even, with the limited resources that he'd been given. So why Perry couldn't answer that question, he said that was a question for someone else. I'm like, I have to do self-evaluations for my job every year. I mean, we all do, right? Like, we all have to self-evaluate. And I think it's very easy to just say something like, I need to do better. We're all playing a role in this. And, this is, we're not going to stop till we get this right. I mean, how hard is it to say that? But he just won't do that. And I think to Mark's point, right? Like, if that's something that's in your control, you don't need to have ownership authorize you to have some self-reflection. You can just be a human being and say it. And to me, like, I've always felt like the excuse that Perry is, has a really, really tough job through ownership kind of went out the door when he signed his contract extension. He didn't have to do that. To me, that was an indication that they are one and the same, that they are going to operate the same way. He knew what he was getting himself into when he signed that extension. And ultimately, they are one team at this point, right? And there's a reason he's entering his 6th season after 5 losing seasons. I mean, there's obviously something that's working well with the front office and ownership, and I think a lot of it has to do with how he handles these situations, unfortunately. And it is tough. Like, I don't Perry's under the gun because of how poorly they performed, but there's just no reason to think it's getting any better. And ultimately, I think this might be their worst season, maybe in the history of their franchise. We already saw that once 2 years ago, and the way that they're operating this offseason, you never know. I mean, every year you kind of think, oh man, the Angels could be a little bit better if all these things work out. But I mean, I'm looking at this roster and I'm seeing a really, really tough time to get, even 60 wins. Maybe.
All right, we're going to.
Philosophically, for me, it's all about makeup. Our player development has done an outstanding job since I've been here.
To introduce Ron Washington, I think the Angels are definitely better today than they were yesterday.
The 2023 Los Angeles Angels were an absolute disaster.
How the Angels can contend after 99 losses in 2024.
Now I'm expecting very positive things here in the near future.
The one quote I think really jumped out at me was when Perry said, "Our player development has done an outstanding job since we've been here." MLB.com ranked the Angels farm system under director Joey Probinski 28th or 30th in each of the last 5 seasons out of 30 teams. Every minor league affiliate last year was below 500. The Angels have only 2 prospects, right-handed pitchers Tyler Bremner and Ryan Johnson, in the top 100. To compare, the Dodgers have 7. The Angels like to tout their young core of Zach Neto, Nolan Shanwell, Logan O'Hoppe, Jose Soriano as being one of the better young cores in baseball. But right now, it looks like Neto's the only real potential star of that group. And you could easily argue that the A's young core is way better. Guys, how would you assess the Angels' player development?
I guess I'll go first. I don't see much. The ratings and the rankings, they seem pretty consistent throughout various publications. I've yet to see anybody that thought that they were somehow rated way too low and had something that people were missing. Maybe there's a couple intriguing young players down an A-ball or even below. Rada is a guy that is of interest to me. Klassen has big stuff. And it seems like a lot of the highest ranked guys were taken in the most recent draft, which I think is intriguing. They went again with the strategy of going under slot. I think Bremner was $2.5 million under slot. There's nothing to say that he might not be considered to start on the major league roster. I don't think it's going to happen, but Ryan Johnson, for example, last year made the team, pitched 0 innings in the minor leagues, and then went down to A-ball for the remainder of the year. Maybe there was a better explanation that I missed. That was very strange to me. Not AA, not AAA. He's major league ready, and then he's in A-ball pitching in Inland Empire, wherever he went to. I feel it was probably wrong there, but nevertheless, is that player development? It's not to me.
There's so many things to get into with this. I look at, you mentioned Ryan Johnson. That's a good example because he's someone that, like you said, these are decisions born out of desperation, in my opinion, right? Like that is a GM who, at the time when he put him there last year, I felt like was doing that because, not necessarily because he was the best option or not necessarily because he was ready, but because he might have been the very best option to do that very specific role. And it's like you said, he went from being the last night that he pitched in the big leagues, he was their 7th inning guy in a lead, right? He came with a lead in the 7th inning, was let go after the game to high A. But that's not even the worst example. To me, like, I saw Sam Aldegheri come in twice, Caden Dana come in the games this year and throw 43 pitches in 1 inning to cover them out of a need to get through a major league game. You're using your top pitching prospects to cover you in relief appearances because one, you've rushed these guys to the big leagues so quickly that you don't even have people on your 40-man roster that you can call up without DFAing them, essentially. So they're already painting themselves into a corner, and then they're putting these guys in an awful position to fail at that level and to fail royally in these 7-8 run innings that they just can't get out of. I think it's just an awful dereliction of duty. I wrote about it at the time. The player development, it's not about player development. I mean, like the draft, I mean, you look back to that 2021 draft where they took all pitchers. I mean, there's not a single guy from there that you can count on at the big league level at this point. I mean, Chase Silseth is okay. I mean, he has got to prove something. Sam Bachman, similarly, a lot to prove. And maybe those are the two guys that will show something from that draft. But that's a failure of a draft, and it was a gimmick of a draft too. And then beyond that, I mean, you're looking at Zach Neto was probably the greatest thing that Perry's done, right? Like that was a really good pick. But beyond that, there have been just not a lot of good decisions made. They don't make trades at the deadline when they are in position to do so, to actually add to that player, that system that is ranked so low, right? I mean, if they had made trades in 2023, 2024, and 2025 when they did not, they'd be looking at a much different farm system, in my opinion, especially if they traded Ohtani in 2023. But that's probably for a whole separate episode. So, there's just failures all around. I mean, you can look at the disconnect between the major league coaches and the minor league player development staff. And you can look at, Troy Percival coming in and saying he didn't like technology. And then a couple of their top, player development pitching guys are out the door a week later, right? Like there are so many things that are just so like you shake your head at. And then, like you said, I mean, Perry continuously props up his farm director, Joey Probinski, who's just not accomplished much of anything, right? And then they keep hiring these guys. I mean, most of their major league coaching staff right now is from their minor league player development system from last year. I mean, it's like, where is this coming from? Where's this confidence? It's why, it's just nothing really makes a lot of sense. And there's just mistakes and failures and just bad decisions like littered across the last 5 years.
最後までご覧いただきありがとうございました。今回の動画についてどういう感想を持たれましたか？ぜひコメント欄で意見や感想をお聞かせください。チャンネル登録やグッドボタンを押していただけると励みになります。それでは次回の動画でお会いしましょう。